So tonight we're going to be talking about transforming your inner dialogue for unshakable confidence. And so, have you ever found yourself at a loss for words when asked to share something about yourself or what makes you unique? If I were to ask you tonight to share a little bit about yourself and what makes you unique, how would you respond? And I'm going to give you a second to actually think about that. If you have a piece of paper and something to write with, feel free to just kind of write that down. Awesome. So tonight I'm going to share my journey with struggling to connect by sharing personal experiences to achieving unshakable confidence by changing my inner dialogue. My story starts with family. I actually heard this past weekend where we all come from families. We all have a family. That is our beginning. We are human. So my story starts with family. My parents were divorcing as I was arriving on this planet. And as since we're all women in here, I really was coming down the birth canal and my mother was signing the divorce papers. The picture on the left is my mom and my parents' wedding picture. My mother, she dropped out of high school to marry my father. They were married for about 5 years, conceived me, and then divorced. That picture on the right is me with my mom. They each remarried and had other children. And I was the only person in my family unit navigating life 50% with my mom and 50% with my dad. And therefore, I struggled to fit in, trying to determine where do I fit in? Where's my tribe? I was surrounded by love I had great parents. This is my mom and my stepdad at my graduation. I had fantastic grandparents. These are my grandparents on my father's side, and I just adored them. I spent every Sunday with them from the time that I was born to the time about 18. Here are my siblings on my mom's side, my siblings on my dad's side. I was surrounded by cousins. My mom came from a family of 10. I have 30 or 28 first cousins on my mom's side. This is just a sampling of us. This is just 3 families, and some of them are still missing. They hadn't been born yet. This was a family vacation. And yet I still felt alone. So my journey continues as you fast forward. As we were taught to get a good job, work hard, retire, and then enjoy life, that's exactly what I did. The second thing was I was taught success was measured by what you do. So with my bags packed, I relocated to Minnesota with the intention to stay for 1 year to gain work experience. Well, that didn't happen. I'm still here almost 30 years later, and I landed my dream job with a major airline. And when I remember the day that I got my badge, I remember I was standing on 494 here in Minneapolis at the parking lot overlooking the hangar of the airlines, calling my family, saying I did it. I landed my dream job. I am finally with the airlines. I figured that is it. I'm going to retire with the airlines. And I did retire, but a little earlier than I expected. I say that I loved everything about that job, but in reality, I was sacrificing everything for that job. I was sacrificing my health, my wealth, time with friends and family. And I was on a business trip 9 years ago, this past September, and I had 3 multi-million-dollar projects that I was managing, and I was managing teams around the world, and every project was failing. So I was there to bring all the teams back on track. It was the last day of that business trip. I was getting ready for work, and my right arm goes completely limp. I'm unable to pick up a pencil or hold even a washcloth. But I didn't consider my health and wellness at the time. So off to work I went. I worked the incomplete day. And by the end of the day, I was in a full tremor on my right side. Still not considering my health and wellness, I decided to fly home anyway. Once I got home, I had a seizure. The Caesar sent me to the ER, and in the ER, I literally heard these words: "Congratulations, you won a one-way ticket to ICU. You're stroking out." impossible. I said, I mean, I honestly thought I had early onset Parkinson's, but that wasn't the case. It was definitely stroke. And so it was at that time I decided I needed to make some changes in my life. And I found some health and wellness products and I regained my energy. Brain fog was gone, all of that goodness. So I said, it's time to pivot. Entrepreneurship has to be less stressful than corporate America. That's kind of my joke. With entrepreneurship came networking, right? So, and during networking, I'm asked often, um, I'm asked to share my story often or asked what makes me unique. Honestly, what makes me unique? That was one of the worst questions, of the questions that I despised until now. But networking with others, I heard this all the time. They talked about their marriages. They talked about their children. They talked about their homes. They talked about their dog. They talked about how long they had been in business. And I had none of it. I mean, I had a business, but I had just started. So here we go again, as I'm sitting in these events, wondering, how do I fit in, surrounded by people, but still carrying that story of I'm alone. But I'm a smart girl. So, and I am built for success. So I jumped in and said, okay, I can answer these questions. So my pre-self-discovery, I would answer this way. I'm a senior business analyst with the major airline. I enjoy connecting with people. I love spending time with friends and family. What makes me unique? Well, I'm an only child with 6 siblings. That's right. I love that line because people would stop and ask, really, how did that happen? That would then open up the door to conversation. But what I didn't realize is that at the time, that story, even though I was just saying it now or started saying it 9 years ago, I actually felt it back in my childhood. And I didn't realize the impact that story was making on the decisions that I was making with my life. Also, more importantly, how I was showing up in the world. Like I said, even going into these networking events, I would walk in and I would feel like I'm not connecting with anybody. Nobody wants to talk to me. Why is that? And it's with that story of I'm an only child with 6 siblings and that I'm alone is the energy I was showing up in those networking events. And we know that energy is also part of our communication and how we show up in the world. And good news, Lisa is going to actually be talking about that next month. So we'll be getting to know about that. But the one thing that entrepreneurship has given me a lot of gifts. But the one gift it really gave me was personal development. It opened up that door to self-discovery. And my corporate career, professional development was super important. And I leaned into professional development because I was always trying to learn a new skill set, not necessarily because I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, but because I wanted to be the best of best of best, right? I was constantly proving myself, which is why I was working around the clock. Even after I had my stroke, I swear if somebody would have delivered a laptop and a cell phone in ICU, I would have continued working. I literally took 2 weeks off to let the swelling go down in my brain because I had a seizure. I was technically not allowed to drive for 3 months, which I did not. But because I was in IT, and this was way pre-COVID, all I needed was a laptop and internet and a phone, and I could continue to work. So 2 weeks, only took 2 weeks off. I was back to work. A friend of mine was just sharing a story that she had shingles and she took more time off to recover from shingles than I did from my stroke. That's how I was so invested in my career. We know that our past experiences make us who we are, right? It's like, yes, our past experience make us who we are today. And I am grateful for a lot of that. But also those past experiences actually we collect luggage and we collect baggage through those experiences and those journeys. And we have free will. The best thing is we don't have to stay that way. So I found this quote this morning when I was going through this presentation, and I just thought it was perfect. Our past experiences may have made us the way we are, but we don't have to stay that way. So we get to change. So what changed for me? As I said, it was self-discovery. I identified my personality archetypes. I developed a healthy relationship with my personality archetypes, and I discovered who I am at my core. I changed my inner dialogue. I rewrote my story. I'm speaking my truth on a daily practice. Because I'm an only child with 6 siblings story, actually I've been telling myself that for to give away my age, but 50 years. And so I am now taking the time to practice saying my new story, knowing that it's going to take time to rewire that thought. So self-discovery. So how did I identify my personality types? Well, came from Positive Intelligence. It's a course that I teach now, and I call it the I call it, what do I call it? I call it Achieving Unshakable Confidence. And through this assessment, there are 9 different archetypes, or they call them saboteurs, and the 10th actually one is the judge. We all have the judge, but then there's different types of personality archetypes here that we all have all of them in us, but some of them are a little bit higher in us than others. And the beauty is they all have positive and they all have negative, right? And in Positive Intelligence, they talk about the negative of being a saboteur and the positive as being a sage. And a lot of times people will say, we hear release what doesn't serve us. And that is great. But when people hear that I'm a pleaser, they go, oh, you should not be a pleaser. Being a pleaser is bad. Well, I like to say, no, I'm a pleaser. I'm a pleaser that works for me today. So there are some of these, like I said, there are different, there's characteristics though that I choose to release, and yet I get to also choose the characteristics that I want to keep. So my top saboteurs, I mentioned a pleaser. And a pleaser, right? Constantly helping, pleasing, rescuing others. Rescuing others, loses sight of own needs and becomes resentful as a result. But yes, hoping to be liked. That's when I knew that, when back in my childhood, when I was trying to determine where I fit in, my personality archetype of the pleaser was born, because I thought if I was nice to people and I helped people, they would like me. My second personality archetype is hyperachiever, narrow focused on achievement and to a detriment of relationships, balance, and perspective. Well, that's exactly what I was with my business analyst job. I was hyper focused on also pleasing and also proving myself, but to the detriment of my personal relationships, my health, and wellness. And the avoider, avoid difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflicts and can procrastinate. So these are the the characteristics that I choose to release, but I want to lean into what I call the positive side. So as a pleaser, I want to be empathetic. I love helping and giving to others, for sure. It's just doing that now in a way that suits me. So I'm a pleaser with boundaries. Hyperachiever. I love to be goal-oriented, self-directed. That is part of an entrepreneur. Driven, pragmatic. That's it. I want to be able to get things done. An avoider. Easygoing, even-keeled temperament. I would not have said that about me. In fact, I read that again today and oh yeah, I am. I can be. But when my saboteur or that hyperachiever, that negative trait was fast and furious, and I was leaning into that, I wasn't so even-keeled temperament. I was definitely we're hyper strong. But being flexible and adaptable. These are things that I do want to do. And also as an avoider, I am leaning into having those difficult conversations. They are part of life. It is also to kind of be a pleaser with boundaries, as you have to have those difficult conversations. So who am I at my core? So how did I discover that? And that is through personality assessments. And and on Elaine's call on Clubhouse, I think Elaine made something about being a overachiever with assessments. That's not what she said about somebody else, but that term that she used, I'm like, yes, I'm obsessed with personality assessments. So I've taken a few. Here are just a few of my favorites and what I've learned about myself. Human designer, or in human design, I'm a manifester and innovator. In seven frequencies, I'm a healer, a motivator, challenger, positive, encouraging, enthusiastic, supportive. And yourself first, I'm a social connector, the ability to create deep connections and fascinate. I am fascinated with fascinate. I wanted to get certified in fascinate. It's not the right time for me, but luckily for me and for our group that Elaine is certified in fascinate, and she's going to be a presenter in the future. And so I'm an innovator, mystique, pioneering entrepreneur who breaks new ground, creative, listening. Love these characteristics. And my ultimate favorite personality assessment is Chimen Danjiao, which is in a short, easy way to explain it. It's Chinese astrology using your birth date and time of birth. And I also do that for my clients. That is my awaken your inner leader. And I love that. That has taught me that I'm creative, inquisitive, caring, nurturing, good at problem solver, a speaker, a writer, a teacher, meant to share my knowledge with the world. These are the good qualities. These are the traits that I want to lean in. And this is who I am at my core. And so now I've rewritten my story and I'm speaking my truth, and I've changed my inner dialogue. So when asked today to share something special about myself or what makes me unique, this is how I respond. I am a creative and empathetic individual who thrives on connecting with supporting others. As a deep thinker and insightful analyst, I love learning and sharing knowledge with the world, continuously seeking innovative ideas and original solutions to challenges. I'm an effective planning and decision making comes natural to me, and I find joy in generating new possibilities. An adventure seeker and world traveler, I embrace the excitement of exploration and the opportunity to speak and share experiences with diverse audiences. My passion for listening deeply and engaging meaningfully fuels my journey of growth and connection. Here is the drum roll. I'm the oldest of seven. I found my tribe. And I show up with my family completely different today. I had one of the best holidays with my family over Christmas than I've ever had. I forgot to share when I was sharing my family pictures. I also have a picture of me and my biological father. He gave me that picture, but I left it in Illinois. But I practice this. I say it out loud and I say it often. So if I can do it, you can do this too. So start living your truth today. So if you are interested in changing your inner dialogue, identifying your personality archetypes, or developing a healthier relationship with your personality archetypes, or discover who you are at your core, well, I have some good news for you. And that is Lisa and I with the Communication Collective will be having an in-person event on January 29th at 6. This says 6 p.m. It's actually 6:30 p.m. It will be in Bloomington. So feel free to scan the QR code and you can register on Eventbrite. If you are not able to make that meeting, or if you're not in Minnesota, then feel free to book a follow-up call with me, and we will go through two of the personality types assessments that we will be doing in the in-person. That one is the PQ, positive intelligence, and then if you want to give me your birth date information, the Chinese metaphysics, the Qi. So we'll have a couple different phone calls on that. We'll talk about what it is that you want to achieve, and then I'll create those assessments and we'll do that. And the third opportunity to stay connected with us is at this point you can, there's a couple different places you can follow or follow up with or follow us on social media. And this happens to be the Eventbrite link. So with that, that is my presentation for tonight. I hope that you got some beneficial information, and definitely look forward to seeing you at our next event.